Good morning to all present. My name is Vipul Nandan. I'm from VIT Chennai Campus, and I am here to download 10 minutes of your time to talk about the power of web. And I have one and only one objective on this stage for the next 10 minutes, and that is to make you realize how powerful the web is. And I'm not talking about Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'll show you that there's much more to web than all this. And even if you consider these, there are dimensions to this of how they are and can be used by us rather than just a conventional ways. So I asked my roommate, who's a non-geek, that what do you think the web is? And he answers, I think the web is the internet, I guess. But that's a very big misconception. There's a huge difference between what the web and the internet is. The internet is the infrastructure, the physical connection between devices that makes the internet run. And the web is the information system on top of that. To give you an analogy, if the Indian railway tracks, the network is the internet, then the trains carrying people and goods from one place to another, that makes the web. So, how many Rajni fans here? Good. This is a website called allaboutRajni.com, and it's so awesome that it only works if you do not have an internet connection. And if you do, it won't work. And this is one end of the spectrum. And on the other end, we have websites like Google Search, which entertains over 4 billion searches or queries every day, 365 1/4 days a year. So it's all about information, the internet and the web. So how much information is exactly there? And if someone tells you they know the answer, they're lying, because no one does. But according to some underestimations, there's more than 400 exabytes out there accessible to you. And if you put all that information in books and pile those books on one on top of the other, then that pile would reach from this hall to the planet Pluto and back 80 times. That's how much information 400 exabytes is. So why is it that the web is so omnipresent? Why is it everywhere in our phones and our devices? We'll go into history a little bit to see that. The first media that was created was called the printing press by Gutenberg. Now this was a one-to-many form of communication in semantic terms in textual format, but it lacked one thing, a feedback system. After that came the telephone by Graham Bell. This was a one-to-one form of communication for audio, but it lacked a grouping or social element to it. After this, the radio was invented on your left side. The radio allowed broadcasting voice over large distances wirelessly. But it also lacked it had the same drawback as the printing press, that it did not have a feedback system wherein the listener could talk back to the speaker. And the television had the same drawback as well. There was no feedback system into it. Finally came the internet. What it allowed you to do was talk to many form of communication, where anyone could talk to anyone and everyone in any direction at any time on any place on the globe. So I'll tell you now how this power of web has been used. This is the picture of Tahrir Square in Egypt in January 2011, where people have gathered to revolt against the then President Hosni Mubarak because of his oppression. Now this was a time where in Egypt, more than 5 people could not sit together because it was against the law. And they did this using Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. They coordinated among themselves. In response to this, the president, he sent his soldiers to the internet service providers in Egypt and physically shut down the machines providing internet access. Now this is unprecedented. It had never happened in human history before. People were outraged. The graph on your left side shows you how the internet traffic in Egypt changed from very high to almost zero in just one night. Just one night difference. That's how much difference it was called. There were outcries. And to the rescue came a small group of computer hackers from Europe called Telecomics. That's a logo over there. And what they did was, they opened 2 of their servers so that anyone in Egypt with a modem could connect with them. Coming back to our own country, our motherland, the Lok Sabha elections that recently concluded were the biggest democratic exercise in human history. And one man emerged at the top, Mr. Narendra Modi. Some might say he's at an age where he should retire, but even then he realized the power that social media, the web and the internet carried, and he harnessed that power to rally the youth, people like us, to support his cause, and today he became the Prime Minister of the largest democracy in the world. Finally, I'm talking about big people. What have I personally done? Last month, in the month of July, I was fortunate enough to be selected to take part in a hackathon, a programming contest organized by JP Morgan in Bangalore, and we were given a problem statement for which we had to build a prototype of a solution in 24 hours. And this is what we built. We built a portal where a visually impaired person could register and tell the problems he or she was facing. Then based on his or her requirement, the system automatically found mentors for them. The mentors would have the required skill in that domain, and we brought them together online for a certain amount of time so that the problem could be overcome. Now, now we did all of this in 24 hours, and the best part of this was that not only was the mentee a person who was visually impaired, but the mentor who was guiding him was also visually impaired. So imagine if this can be done by 6 strangers in 24 hours, what can be achieved in 24 days, 24 weeks or 24 months? We all watch Spider-Man, right? And we know what this quote means. With great power comes great responsibility. When we talk about power, responsibility, internet and misuse, the National Security Agency is the first thing that comes to all our minds. Now these people went to such and such limits of using, or rather abusing their powers, that not even one of the primary leaders of the world, the Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, was spared from their wrath. And even her phone was used for surveillance by them. Now this is a very hot topic that's going on. The Xiaomi phones, which are selling like hotcakes nowadays, there's alleged suspicion that their phones are sending suspicious data from the user's phone to their servers without the user's permission. Now this is an ongoing debate that is going on, and we are still waiting for a response from them. Another example is identity theft, and this is really in the Western world it's happening very fast, where your online presence is stolen and crimes are made in your name. Now this is a new concept that I'm going to talk about. This is called filter bubbling. This is used by search engines primarily. So when you search for something or surf the web, they collect information about you. They find out what you like. You like pizzas, but that's okay. They find out what your political stance is, what your religious beliefs are. And when you search for something, they give you results custom made for you. Now that sounds like a good thing, that I get only relevant searches. But there's the other side of the debate says, but that's not good, because if I'm searching for an opinionated topic, a debatable topic, then I would like to see all the opinions that are there in the market and pick what I like. This is an example of that. On the left side is, I don't think that's clear, Google China. If I search for the word democracy over there, I only get definitions. But if I search the same word democracy on google.com, I get the news for democracy. I get a website called democracynow.org. So that's a huge difference of how filter bubbling is being done. Now, now I've talked about the past, I've talked about the present. What does the future hold for us? Well, in the future, there's one thing that's very imaginative project by Google that's going on. It's called Project Loon. What the objective of that project is, they want to give internet access to the most unreachable and inaccessible places in the world. So what they do is, they mount devices on top of balloons and send those balloons up to a height of 20 kilometers up in the air. I know there's a problem with the slide, so if you could just listen to what I'm saying. And these balloons, using various air currents at various altitudes in the atmosphere, go from one place to another while communicating with each other. And using that, they provide internet to various aspects in the world. Right now, it's being currently tested in New Zealand. The next example and the final example before I conclude is that of Internet of Things. That's the next revolution that's going to come about. In the Internet of Things, the things are literally everything. The keys in your wallet that is in your pants, and the pants on your legs. Everything, the soil, the atmosphere, everything is included in the Internet of Things, and they communicate via a technology called M2M, that is the machine-to-machine communication. Now the good thing about this is, because they can talk to each other automatically, so when you wake up in the morning and you can't find your car keys, you shout your smartphone, "Where are my keys?" And your smartphone shouts back, "They're in your pocket, duffer." Now that's a very funny example, but on a macro level, on a large level, the same Internet of Things can be utilized for making intelligent power grids, or smart grids as they're called. IBM is involved in that. What it does is, because each device is intelligent enough, it can inform the grid directly or indirectly of how much power it is using or how much power it might use in the future. And using that, the grid can decide that if one part of a country will have an excess of power tomorrow, it can channelize that energy to another part of the country. So in the last approximately 10 minutes I've been speaking, more than 7 lakh pictures have been uploaded on Instagram alone. More than 44 lakh tweets have been tweeted on Twitter. More than 2.5 crore searches have been done on Google. More than 5 crore videos have been watched on YouTube. More than 1 crore 36 lakh GB of traffic has happened on the internet, and more than 1 billion, that's a billion with a B, emails have been sent. That is how vast, how fast, and in general, quite awesome the internet and the web is. To conclude, and this is also the reason why I chose to speak on this topic, was that I consider the web and the internet to be a medium of disseminating infinite amount of information to n number of people in umpteen number of ways with little or no cost at all. And that to me is the very beauty of its existence. Thank you.